Thursday, 20th of October 2022, and this evening's special West Lancs Derby Day preview. We are once again joined by our chum, Tom, from down the M55. Tom will be helping us in the build-up to Saturday's much-anticipated Battle of Bloomfield Road. And I'm John Aspinall, and this is the Seaside's podcast match preview show. Don't get any bigger than this. Blackpool v PNE.
It's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Sorry, chaps. Just I've got a leak above my head somewhere. I'm singing in the rain. Takes me back to the Gene Kelly. Years ago. I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds.
It makes a pleasant change for us to be taking the piss out of your infrastructure. So we've been given the opportunity and milking it to.
It's not great on the optics, was it?
The nth degree, and we'll take the YouTube copyright strike that is no doubt coming our way after that. Good evening, Tom. Anyway, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me on again. Looking forward to it.
Matt, I noticed you only had your hood up. You weren't prepped about this hilarious gag, were you? You weren't.
I don't own an umbrella. I wasn't prepped about the gag, but even if I had been prepped about the gag, I wouldn't be able to act upon it because I don't own an umbrella. I don't really understand umbrellas.
They kind of keep the rain off you when it's pissing it down. Tim, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
He's ahead of his game, ahead of the game, Tom, though, isn't he? Because he actually guessed what we're going to do.
Yeah, we hadn't discussed that beforehand, have we?
No.
Great minds think alike, sadly.
Oh, yeah, maybe it's so predictable, Tim. You thought it was hilarious in the box last night.
I did. Well, I'd had a few beers at the time, so obviously you put the wrong one on anyway. We wanted the, I said, Tom, the Hindu guy doing, what was it? What was the song?
Roop Singh, our quarter of a millionaire off Deal or No Deal, celebrity Preston fan.
I'm just on a can of Farmyard Ale this evening. So to give him a bit of a plug for sending us a couple of crates. One's the live show, one's still here.
No one got found the way to my house.
Well,
no, mine.
Is it bitter?
I couldn't carry 2 crates to the live show, gentlemen. It's only the first one. I'm only drinking this one because I'm showing Tom. It's actually quite nice, isn't it? It's quite a nice little can there. I was going to bring you one round. Would you have drunk one if I brought you one round?
No.
It's quite nice. It's quite a nice drink, actually.
I don't even have tangerines in the house, so my diet's not the best, so that speaks volumes.
Tim, we were in the box last night, weren't we? Lording it up. We certainly weren't lording up the fare that was served on the pitch, were we?
No, definitely not. It was after the Lord Mayor's show, I think is the expression, isn't it? You know, we go to Bramhall Lane on Saturday and are involved in an extremely exciting and an eventful performance with some star performances, and then we got the antithesis of that on last night, didn't we? So it's a pity because obviously you're in the box and you know it's not something you do very often, and you want to make a big thing of it. So whilst it was a good experience, it was rather dismal when it came to watching the football.
What was your thoughts of that, Tom, when you saw that result come in?
I mean, it was great viewing from my perspective. A little bit surprised. I thought you may have beaten them after your heroics at the weekend, but maybe that late equaliser that shouldn't have been allowed really when you look at the assault on Flapswell. But effectively, maybe that's just taken a toll. 3 players down, turned to suspended. I know you've had a raft of injuries throughout the season, and I know Michael Appleton mentioned it last night. When you start weighing up the amount of games that have been squeezed in to try and get them in before the World Cup, squads like ours just can't compete. That's the reality. We struggled. Clearly, you struggled. And on the one hand, it was a surprising result, and on the other hand, when you actually look at it, it's probably almost inevitable, really. Especially as you said, I heard someone on Saturday saying that it felt like a defeat coming away from Bramall Lane for you, which I could understand, because it was a terrible refereeing decision, and that's coming from a Preston fan. But watching it, it was scandalous. Really, he was assaulted into the back of the net, and obviously the guy can pass the ball in, so you're not allowed to touch keepers, are you?
There was rumours going around that he was a knobber, wasn't it?
They always are, John. They always are when we lose like that. Well, not lose like that, but lose drop points like that.
Oh dear. Right, we're going to discuss the whole game after you've gone, Tom. So I'm sure you don't want to discuss that in the details of fruit flying.
Oh, I'll happily discuss it if you like.
Right,
It was
okay.
great viewing. So.
You can hang around and watch us pick our team as well if you want. Right.
Can we go too before we discuss it, John?
Yeah. In fact, yeah. I'll click the end broadcast button, shall I? Right, Tom. Played 16, won 5, drawn 7, lost only 4, goals 4, a meagre 9, also a meagre goals against tally 10. 9th on 22 points, 2 points off the playoffs. On paper, good start to the season. Gives your thoughts. On paper being the operative word.
Yeah,
or
it's been somewhat of an astonishing start to the season. Really, we started with 7 clean sheets. Freddie Woodman's got 10 clean sheets in 16 matches, and you feel a bit sorry for him. Really, he's doing his job. The defence is doing their job, and it's the paltry return at the other end of the pitch which is costing us dear. We were calling out all summer for further recruitments at that end of the pitch. We've got Reece there, who's a bit in and out. We've got Ched Evans, who's not scored since 2004. We've got Shawnee Maguire, who's not scored since 2010. And that's about it. We brought Parrott in from Tottenham. He scored his first league goal and injured himself celebrating. So that tells you the whole story, really. So we're not in a false position because we've obviously been keeping goals out, but it's really strange when you look at the league. The league is strange this year. Blackburn are top of the league and they've had 7 defeats. It's all a bit upside down, really.
Really?
Yeah.
God, they have. You're right. Yeah. Jeez,
Yeah.
They've not drawn.
They had 9 wins and 7 defeats.
Bloody hell.
They don't know what a draw is in Blackburn, but they're top of the league. So it really is madness.
I mean, QPR, we've beaten them away. We should have beaten Sheffield United. We've had good results against the sort of the teams that are up there, and we always seem to lose and get beaten by the teams around us at the bottom. So yeah, it's a strange one. So
it is. I think the division is just absolutely wide open this year. We seem to say that every year, and you think it can't be any more wide open year after year with parachute money. But bad managers, bad management at club. If you can get lucky and keep your squad fit and maybe add a bit of quality here and there, it really is open to make a run for it. And that's really, I think, a lot of the frustration coming from Preston fans, that we could see what we needed. We were crying out for it all summer. We thought there was a sea change. We were told to play our part. We doubled our season ticket holders. And then we made a couple of early signings, a couple of loans. And then there was 2 or 3 months of frustration, really, when there was no further signings, that Ryan Lowe came out early in the summer and said, I've been given licence to go and get a right wing back and another striker.
So it sounds remarkably familiar with all this,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Do we share the same recruitment team by any chance?
I think the problem with our clubs is that we to stay in this league, we have to overachieve. And there's only so many times that you can do that. If you start selling your best players, you've lost Bowler, obviously, and that's clearly had an impact upon your ability to create and score goals. We've had to sell people in the past. We've managed to hold on to Reece this summer when there was talk of him going to Middlesbrough for 10 million, which I'd have taken, to be honest with you. But in all honesty, there's only so long that you can keep getting away with it and hoping to try and find those gems in League One, or that have been released by a Premier League team, or that you can take on loan. So that's the problem for teams like ours at the end of the day, and it always will be the problem unless you have a sugar daddy willing to throw millions and millions at it.
But there's also the sort of the impact of Brexit in there this year. So the Premier League teams are finding it harder to import players from Europe as they were. So they're picking up more British players and holding more of the young players as well. So the players that are available are probably of a higher value than they would have been. So are getting taken by the West Broms or whoever, and then we're left with a smaller field of who we would have bought. I suppose that's the case for the defence, isn't it, for our relative various ownerships?
Yeah, you have to get lucky. I mean, we had Robbie Brady on trial and Ben Woodburn on trial this summer. Woodburn you're familiar with from your place, I understand. He stumped the place out. And it's one of them where he's at Preston for a reason. Probably he can't stay fit. He hasn't done very well. He's looked bright in 1 or 2 appearances, but then he got injured midweek when he was playing half decent, and he's out again. He's made of glass. So that there's a reason why he's at Preston and he's available. We've picked up the lad from Man United, the left back Fernandez, who looks a player. But we've had this before where we've had Seth Vandenberg on loan. We've had Daniel Everson on loan. They do really well, and inevitably they move on. Sepp's gone to Germany. Daniel Everson's backing up the other keeper at Leicester at the moment. And Cameron Archer, who obviously we were desperate to get back, is sat alongside your former manager on the bench at Villa at the moment. So it's that frustration of finding someone that can come into your team or signing someone, and then inevitably they're going to move on at some point. But I suppose every player's got a price, haven't they?
So with Ryan Lowe, did you think he'd come and play so defensively at Preston, given he was quite free scoring, wasn't he, at Bury? Do you think he's just been a bit pragmatic about it? Let's just not concede. His
formation throughout his managerial career, as I understand it, has been 3-5-2 or 3-4-1-2, and I'm not going to budge. You can say what you want. I'm not changing from that. I believe in it. Whether that's outdated, whether you need to adopt to different matches, a bit like Alex Neil did, I don't know. He came in last season and we appeared to be playing more aggressive football, more attacking football, scoring a few more goals. So it has been a bit of a surprise this season that they've just completely dried up. We have been very tight at the back. Liam Lindsay, who was already at the club, Jordan Storey, who was already at the club, have come in and they look absolutely fantastic in the back three. I think the loan to Sheffield Wednesday for Jordan Storey has been the making of him, a bit like Ben Davies previously. But Ryan Lowe has come out and said, I've got this brand of football, this attacking, flowing football. We're just not seeing it at the moment. We might have seen it a bit last season, perhaps with Cameron Archer at the leading the attack, but we certainly haven't seen that this season. It's very left to right football. We've got players passing from side to side. There's no real dynamism in there. You've got Reece, who's fairly isolated up top on his own, and there isn't this brand of football that we've been promised. So there has been that frustration. Saying that, we're sat ninth, a third of the way into the season, and if you'd have said to us you'd been challenging for the playoffs in August, we'd have probably taken that. We'd have been happy with that. It's just we always want more, don't we?
So would you say that's the personnel that's failed to be materialised and brought in, that he's adopted this kind of system?
I think so. Clearly, he's wanted a right back since he came in because he identified that last January, or a right wing back. We're still playing Brad Potts there in fits and starts. He wanted another striker. Now, they brought in Parrott, but he obviously said he wanted a further striker. So I think he has been kind of hamstrung in a way. We got rid of 15 players in the summer and we brought 7 in. Only one of them we paid money for. We had Diaby, who was signed after his drugs ban, Brady, who was on trial along with Woodburn, and we gave them a contract for 12 months. And then the loan signings of Parrott and Fernandez. So there was a big frustration, I think, from the fan base. And even Lowe has come out and said, perhaps I got a bit carried away towards the end of the season. Perhaps I promised more than I could have delivered, and his expectations seem to have been scaled back as the summer went on. I've been promised a right wing back and a striker. Oh well, we'll keep looking. Oh well, we might not need them. We've got players already. To business is done. So it has been one of a frustration, which I'm sure you've experienced. I've seen the tweets from your fans around deadline day as well, when you're struggling to get those additional players in that I think the board were saying they were going to try and help the club bring in. So it is a never-ending struggle for teams like us to bring in players that are capable and are going to make us better at this level on the budgets that we have. That's the problem.
Tom, without wishing to blow any smoke up Preston's backside, what I've possibly noticed this season is the results that you've picked up away have been more than surprising. They've been it's been quite incredible from your perspective. Wins at Norwich and so I think you've won about 3 or 4 away. I mean, I think that's where you got the majority of your points. So, why do you think you're picking points up away, but then grinding out your 0-0s at home? What's going on?
I read a stat the other day that said we have one of the worst home records in the Championship, and I think that probably goes back a couple of years. Now, I don't know whether that is the style of play. It passes on beyond Ryan Lowe. It passes back to Alex Neil. It passes back to Simon Grayson. Passes back to Frankie McAvoy when he was in charge for that short period of time. I don't know whether the players are scared of Deepdale, as silly as it sounds, or don't feel as comfortable playing at Deepdale. But clearly this season they've been able to win away from... We've only lost once away from home, and that was last week at Bristol City. As you said, we've been to Norwich and won. We've had draws at Sunderland. So it's frustrating because historically Deepdale was a fortress and we've had wins there, and we can't seem to marry those up at the same time. If we did, we'd probably win the league by February or March. But I honestly don't know what the answer is. We've tried different formations with different managers, and the home form just seems terrible. We just can't seem to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games not losing a game at home. We lost to Stoke.
You've got the best away record, but I think almost the second or third worst home record, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, prime example, we lost to Alex Neil Stoke, who didn't do anything fantastic, and then midweek they lost to Rotherham. It's the division in a nutshell. It's absolutely bonkers mad. But to respond to Tim, I don't really know what the answer is. Maybe we just don't have that nous that's needed to beat teams at Deepdale. They come, they sit in, they know what we're going to do. We go side from side with nothing dynamic. We started winning a few games at the back end of the season when we had Cameron Archer there, but a few moments of brilliance from him won us matches. So I honestly don't know what the issue is, but John Beck once said that we were cursed, and I think he brought a witch doctor in or something to try and lift the curse at Deepdale. So it's really odd, really odd.
So
it's interesting. The couple of PNE fans that I fraternise with, they don't go away. They only go to home games, and they're really flat. And I kind of assumed that you must be about 18th. And it was only the other day that I noticed you were actually doing quite well, but they've been so flat and sort of, I'd see them on a Monday and they used to go out. Yeah, I was the game. Typical.
Yeah. We've only scored 2 goals at home. We've played 8 games at home and we've scored 2 goals. Fans want to see winning football. Fans want to see goals. Fans want to see players giving their all and running around and at least trying to win matches. And it has been really, really flat. We've had all these new season ticket holders come along. Maybe it's something to do with that their expectations are a bit too high. And when they start moaning, it's very much easy to hear over the 6, 7, 8,000 core fans that we have. And there is a feeling at Deepdale that we're just sort of turning up. We've tried to do things by bringing flags. We're doing flag displays before matches. So we're trying to generate noise.
You thought about some clapsticks?
No, not clapsticks. With actual flags. So we've you'll see them.
You've been there with clapsticks before, haven't you?
My memory's hazy, Tim. I can't quite remember. So. but we've split the cop on some games, try and generate noise and atmosphere. But it's all a bit deliberate. It's all a bit flat at Deepdale. You know, the excitement levels are not there, and I think that's permeating from the fans into the players and vice versa. And it's all a bit odd. Whereas you go to the away games and you tend to get more hardcore fans going there, and because we've been picking up those wins away from home unexpectedly, the feeling is one that we're better away from home.
There is an onus on the team, though, isn't it? It's like last night. It's probably the worst atmosphere I can recall at a Blackpool match since we came back from COVID.
Because you weren't in the north, Tim. That's why.
Probably that I wasn't there, just getting it all going. But the reality was, we delivered up a turgid, particularly the second half, a really turgid performance, and that always finds its way into the stands. So if that's a regular feature of home games, and to be fair, we've had a few home games. Watford particularly stands out where we've played well and the atmosphere has been bouncing. But it happened to us last night. It was, I think you actually messaged me, didn't you, and said something like, "Are we all saving our voices for Saturday?" And the reality was, it was very flat. But equally, I don't think we had a shot on target in the second half. So there's always going to be a link, isn't there? If it's what's happening on the pitch isn't exciting and getting you out your seat, then as much as you want to get it going, eventually people get bored and they switch off and they start looking at the phones and they start talking and doing whatever they're doing rather than actually focusing on the game. And I think that's probably a reflection of the way you're playing at home, where if you actually reversed it round and saw some of your away performances, the atmosphere might be a little bit better. And,
I mean, in reality, Saturday should be completely different. Obviously, both sets of fans will be up for it and the players should be up for it. And it should provide both sets of players may be a bit cautious to start with, but it only takes one big tackle to get everyone going, doesn't it? And there should be a good atmosphere around it.
It's going to be
yeah, probably actually because you've been probably at 4-3 or something. It'd be good. It'd be good if
would you in this game a big scoreline, aren't we? It's
yeah,
always since that 3-3 we lost that years ago. It's always been 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, 1-1, 0-0, 1-1.
Yeah,
so yeah, let's hope we get one.
Really. We tend to have quite a lot of goal fests against Burnley historically, although it was 1-1 at Deepdale, a couple of months ago. But Burnley's the one that tends to go a bit mad: 4-3, 5-3, 3-2, 2-1. So I think you're right. We are due a goal fest, but we can't score. You're struggling to score, but you're not defending very well by the looks of it. So.
One of my questions, Tom, was does it bother you to barely see any goals or entertainment as long as you're picking up the points?
Well, we've had a couple of 1-0 wins away at Luton. We won at Deepdale 1-0, and 3 points is all that matters at the end of the day. But, a couple more goals would be nice. 2 at Deepdale in 8 games is a paltry return. It really is.
And on that vein of questioning, are you familiar of the Twitter account Haaland Watch? And I'm sure that Tim has made you aware of it. We're catching him up, aren't we?
We're catching him up slowly but surely. I think we're on a constant trajectory. We may pass him by March, maybe, unless he carries on at the rate he's going. So, he's a monster, isn't he?
Mm. So you've told us about your informed players. Three I've noted on a bit of research that I've done is Reece, Parrott and Greg Cunningham. I think Emil Reece, he features on quite highly in the stats of a lot of your forward play. Is he? How much of a threat is he? And who else should we be looking out for in form?
So, in terms of Reece, there's 2 schools of thought. One is a genius and one is lazy and useless. I mean, you saw shades of him last season. He is a bit of an oddity in that he'll score and he won't really celebrate. He just sort of stands there and he doesn't really endear himself to the fans. You just think, go a bit mad, tear your shirt off or do something and just show that it means something to you. But he's one of those, individuals from Iceland over there, Norway, and he's very calm, very assured about things. Scores his goal as though it's just his job.
Sounds a bit like Tony Ellis. He was like that, wasn't he?
Oh, God. Not Judas again. So on his day, I mean, he scored goals from obscene angles. He's an instinctive finisher. His hold-up play leaves a lot to be desired. Middlesbrough released a report saying he was excellent with his head, which I've not really seen, although he did score a headed goal at Norwich. But he has the pace to hurt you, and he can. If you give him a chance, he will finish. He's very cold-blooded in terms of finishing in front of goal. But then equally, he could be anonymous for 90 minutes, and you think Preston have played with 10 men there. He's not one to chase around and run around and run back. So whether we play him with Maguire, who's come back in recently from injury, I don't think he'll play him with Ched Evans, or whether Woodburn as recovers and he'll play him behind him in sort of a 10 role, which he played there midweek for the first time. So that's really only our only major goal threat, really. The other goals have come from midfield. So that's why you can see we've only scored 10 goals all season, because if Reece doesn't bag, then we're relying upon either a centre back to score or someone from midfield trying to put one in.
Okay, do you know who? This is to Mitch and Tim. Who do you think we should be man marking Emil Reece then? Do you know who I'm going to?
Go on.
He played last night and he was shite.
God.
And he's a centre half.
Williams. Williams can't play again.
Agent Williams.
The Preston fan.
Ideally, he won't be in the ground.
I've heard he's got a Preston tattoo as well, as long as Appleton.
Well, Appleton hasn't, because he had to strip off in the Armfield Club to prove it.
Yeah.
Just an interjection. It was in the chat, but we've actually got a Seaside podcaster on your football wall there. Apparently.
Oh yeah, I can see him.
Joe Atherton. I can see his tangerine hat.
Yeah, there he is. There he is. Hi, Joe.
He loves that picture, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's literally celebrating in front of him.
He is. I love that picture, celebrating in front of Joe. I remember seeing it at the time and thinking, "Oh, marvelous! I'll keep that saved." So, yeah.
Okay, so you've shared this shit player with us. We've shared one with you this season. Was with us previously. Ben Woodburn. Has it turned out to be as shite as we all warned you he would be?
Well, he came in the summer along with Robbie Brady on trial. I don't know whether it's just a matter of convenience because he was down the road at Liverpool. And the club basically gave him a 1-year deal. And so I think a lot of the fans' reactions were, oh, we're going down the cheap option again. We're not signing people. We're taking someone on a punt that they might work out. And the problem is that he's had injuries. Effectively, he started a few games of the season and got injured. He came in midweek and he actually was linking up in between the lines quite well, playing behind Reece at Huddersfield, although they were terrible. But then he went down injured and went off. So I've not read an update yet as to whether he's going to be available. So we've not really had an opportunity to see him have a run of games. It looks quite bright. He likes to have a pop at goal. But I think it's probably not easy for me to actually give an opinion on him yet, having seen.
I think you get one game out of 5 where he might do all right. I mean, when he first signed for us, I was really excited because
you were, Tim. I remember you were buzzing. Yeah,
because he played for Oxford against us. The game we sort of robbed them and won 2-1, and he was the best player on the pitch by a country mile. I thought, friggin' hell, why can't we sign a player like that? Then we sign him, and I'm thinking, great, he's probably when Critchley was here, he's about the only Liverpool player we got hold of. Because we actually did better getting the Everton players in, and they did. Sims and whatever did quite well for us, but he just flatters to deceive for me, and I think you'll see that over a period of time. Again, these players who can't, who might have the skill but maybe don't have the aptitude, or also pick up injuries, that they always end up dropping down the league or dropping down 2 leagues. And we're seeing it with Williams. Williams hasn't got the heart that a lot of Blackpool players has got for me, and that's reflected in performances, and that's always reflected in where they'll end up with the career, because maybe they've had it a bit too easy in the formative years, as against some other players. They've had to scrap the way up the
I
leagues.
think prime example I can relate to that with Josh Harrop at Preston. He scored a goal for Manchester United pretty much on his debut. We signed him for allegedly the best part of £1 million, and I think he probably played about 50 games in total over 3 years. And then we sort of released him in the summer, paid up his contract, and I don't actually think he's got a club yet. The last I saw, he went to I think he went to Burton and refused to play in a position. I think that's what I read somewhere. So they sent him back. He went to Fleetwood, got injured after 1 minute taking a corner for them in his first game. And it's one of them where maybe, like you say, he's had it too easy being brought up at Man United, thinks he's a world beater. He's gone out into the wide world of football and he's not up to it. Maybe his body's not up to it, being relatively short in stature and fairly lightweight. And now he's probably struggling to find a professional club to pay for again. The gambles, aren't there, these players? Some work out really well, some don't. We had Seth Vandenberg from Liverpool last season, who was fantastic playing for us. They took him back and they sent him out into Europe. Sadly, he's got a bad injury, but the same with Everson. If they do well, they're not your player. You're then having to find players to replace them in addition to replacing in other ones. So it's just a constant battle for teams like us.
Get Mitch started. Get Matt started. I knew his mouth was going to open there. I could see the cogs ticking.
I was just going to make an observation on Ben Woodburn that I never really quite knew what his position was. He was one of those players where we seemed to play him. Critchley would play him on the right, then he'd bring him on the left, then he'd bring him on sort of up front playing off Medine for 10 minutes, then he'd play him in the hole. And it was always like, and I feel this about Williams as well. Some of these players, you feel like they're very good technically, but they don't really quite work out how to play a position. And so they're just kind of almost like just a set of attributes, but not necessarily the knowledge of how to play the game, if that makes sense. And I think that's, maybe down to how they develop. And when they hit the sort of the reality of the Football League, then it's I don't know, Woodburn always seems to, he felt like there really was a player there if he could just find where he would fit. But we just seemed to move him around all the sort of front five positions, and he didn't actually fit anywhere. I don't know if you've had that.
He's the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. He's not. He's like got no heart, has he? That's for me. He just hasn't got. He hasn't. He hasn't got that real. Well, what you see from Connolly and what you see from other players. Your
Tim, if you remember the GTF, what GTF said at the live show, he said playing as a 15, 16-year-old in men's football at a lower level, he said it absolutely made him as a footballer because he was getting the shit kicked out of him, and it was proper football as a 15 and 16-year-old.
Well, that's where the comment. There's a comment on there saying, Williams, he's got no technical ability. I think he has. If he stood still, I think he's a very good footballer. But the reality of when people actually start pushing him, and he has to deal with other players moving around and people, that's where he just
coming
goes
in with studs up and whatever.
Yeah, he just seems to fall to pieces. If you watch him in a warm-up,
so off the pace of the game, man.
Yeah. Watch him in the warm-up, he's pinging it round and stroking it round, and you think, oh, this guy looks really good, and then the game actually starts, and he just falls to pieces, and that technical ability deserts him. And I think that's what I mean about him of not being able to actually play. Last night, and I know we're not doing this now, and we'll move on, but last night he just looked like he'd never played centre back in his life. And it's like, what is this?
He looked like he'd never played football in his life. He's like when you put a kid who's never played football and they've got no positional awareness whatsoever, and the coach is having to shout, go over there, cut inside, call back, get behind your man. It was like that.
I literally thought last night he looked like, I don't know if you've ever had that thing where you've been playing for a football team and you end up drafting a mate that doesn't really play football just to make up the numbers, and they just look completely. That is literally what I thought about him. He looks like somebody who's playing for like a year 10 team who's just been dragged in because he's sort of having a fag on the touchlines and he doesn't really play football.
Have you ever seen Peep Show where
no, not seen that one.
David Mitchell gets put into a 5-a-side? It's exactly like that. You need to.
Tom, if Williams starts on Saturday, you've won. I predict that. That's my prediction.
He obviously just he can't. It's not in him, is it, to perform for you with the the Preston background of his.
He'll be in the way end, Tom, according to that. According to Lang's
Yeah, he probably will be.
Yeah, rather he was.
Yeah.
Stand with
buy
me,
him a
that's
ticket.
fine.
Should we do a crowdfunder? And as Antonio says, he should be sent back to Liverpool. Anything left over in the crowdfund will pay for him for a train ticket. First class.
Raggy started the crowdfunder to help fund the repairs at Deepdale, didn't he? I think there was 10 quid in the
There was,
10
I
quid
saw
raised.
that. 10
I tried
pound in
to
it,
I tried to put 10p in, but it said minimum donation of £5.
No,
So
I tried to do the same, but I'm not putting a £5 in.
To be fair, in relation to that, I understand that the quote that they obtained was for the entire roof, but it's just not good on the optics, was it? Really, just in Derby week as well. I mean, goodness me.
As I said, we could always buy you a few tangerine umbrella hats, you know, that you can all sit there. You look great.
I'll pass. I'll bring my blue and white one. So, if I can get in, looking at all the diversions that Seasiders Police has put out on Twitter, where you're allowed to walk and where you're not allowed to walk. So,
what's that?
I was actually really worked up in the summer when you signed Williams, because I remember thinking, we could do with a centre back from Liverpool like him, because we were bringing back Liam Limsey and Jordan Story, and I was worried about our centre back. But is that a dripping sound?
Is it your house, Tom?
Yeah. Roof needs repairing.
Oh, it stopped. Oh, right. Funny that. Right, let's segue onto what you've just mentioned there, Tom. The police operation. Now, I have actually, in true Blue Peter style,
well, there we go. Look at that.
Of this, frankly, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Someone described it as Dad's Army. The opening credits on Dad's Army. I thought it was brilliant.
Oh my God!
Our police obviously got a lot of time on their hands with this, and they've done multiple posts on Twitter with a video asking each question. None of this would have needed to be done if you'd have just kept the Preston fans in for 15 minutes at the end. What's your views on this, Tom? Would you be bothered? Would you be bothered being kept in for 15 minutes?
If we won 3-0, I'd stay in for an hour, to be honest with you. So, no, not especially. If it allowed people to be dispersed and get away, then fine. In any other walk of life, this doesn't tend to happen. It just tends to be with football fans that they tend to plan for these. And I don't see this same level for rugby or people queuing up for the Queen's funeral. They didn't start planning all this and that out, thinking there's going to be trouble.
To be fair, though, the queues at the Queen's funeral weren't going to kick 10 lumps of shit out of each other in the queue, though, were they? And be like 9 pints in.
You say that. I'd like to think that people have moved on from that type of behaviour. There will be the few idiots, but...
We got kept behind at Deepdale, though, didn't we? For a considerable amount of time.
We kept behind for an hour.
Nearly an hour.
It was about 11:15, I think, before we were allowed to leave the confines of the ground. But yeah, you were right, John. We were kept in on the concourse for a good 15 minutes post-match. Whether they say that's as a result of things that were going on outside the ground or not, I don't know. But the reality is, I just don't get it. They come up with this, and I've challenged them over it as well. They come up with this, it's sort of infringing people's liberties. But the case law in the area, and I don't want to bore people too much with it, makes it very, very clear that whilst kettling and whatever else they call it isn't ordinarily allowed, one of the examples they give of when it should be allowed is when there's concerns over the risk of issues at football matches. And yet the police use this case law to sort of support their position that they're not going to keep fans back, but they're actually creating the problems by not doing it. For the last 30 years, every time I've gone to Preston, I think I've been kept back more often than not. I've very rarely walked straight out onto Deepdale Road straight after the game. Ever. So
what's interesting from that map is that they appear to be blocking 2 roads off. I think those 2 red roads that they're intending on sending Preston fans down. Is that right? But then they're going to send you round to meet us at the other side, aren't they?
That's what they did last year.
That's where we were kettled into. So I kind of, on that first road, I think we actually were all kettled in coming away from Bloomfield Road. The Preston fans had made the way to Maudsley Avenue, but made the way back up to Bloomfield Road, and we all met in the middle. It was like a scene out of Gladiator.
I saw the videos on Twitter. Yeah, I'd long gone by then. I was down the road in what was it called? Is it home base or the?
Does anybody actually understand what all that means anyway? So you guys go down the roads with the red here, and then
they should have done it in blue, really, shouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, what happens? What happens when you get down the bottom? What if your
Well,
cars?
That's where it's all kicking off.
You by the look of it, yeah, that's where it's kicking off.
That's where all the muckers will be waiting for you.
So I think
the blue area is where maybe the Preston coaches will be, but
that's no man's land. No man's land.
They're all not going to be. Everyone's not going to be on coaches. So if they're going to send us down those two roads,
Greg says the red roads are closed, but closed to who and for what purpose?
Right. Okay.
I don't know. I don't get it.
There's some quite funny comments have just come in. First one from Lankslad. Looks like Keith Laird's picture of a dog from Phoenix.
Is he enjoying a dog?
The one positive is we might be able to egress the stadium from the northeast gate, which we can't normally do.
That's the heat map of Blackpool fans on Wednesday. Don't really get that all. Yeah, so God knows how this is all gonna.
It's disappointing. It's an early kickoff as well, isn't it? It's completely cocks up the pre-match build-up and everything, doesn't it? The
April game is early as well.
Yeah, we've got both games, and it's just it goes too far for me. I think the number of police is too many, and the preventative measures are too many, and it just needs to be policed properly and sensibly, and
just keep them in. Just keep them in for 20 minutes. That's all they need to do. It doesn't.
I know, but they won't do it, will they? They won't do it, and they'll all pile out onto Bloomfield Road straight after the match, and whatever obviously the result.
One set of fans going to be goading each other, aren't they, based on the result? Yeah. So,
unless it's 0-0.
I just think that it comes down to somewhere somebody in the police actually gets off on the whole pseudo military organisation of it all. They're like pointing, waving, telling people where to go. You can't do this. You can't do that. Go over there. Don't answer back, or you'll be in trouble. And I'm sure 90% of the rank and file coppers can't be arsed with it. But somebody somewhere in that policing organisation likes to take their chance to have as much power as they possibly can over a group of people who can't do anything about it, and I'm convinced of it. And the number, there were incidents at Deepdale, but the number of police there were there was absurd. It was just unreal, the number of police there were. When you consider there was only 2,000 Blackpool fans or whatever there were, the number of police was unreal. Because I walked back to the station, unlike I think you two went on the coach, didn't I? And they were just everywhere, all the way through the town, all the way down Deepdale Road, all the way through whatever it's called as you walk through Deepdale, all around the station, going around in vans. It was like there was a war on, and it was obviously somebody's best day of the year. Was
on the coach. It was like watching the procession at the Queen's funeral. The number of police officers who were walking past. It was like a constant for about 15 minutes as we were sat there twiddling our thumbs for an hour. Just going past and past and past. It was we on the same coach, John. You were, weren't you?
I was just sat there sulking, staring at the seat in front.
Yeah,
of me.
but there was. You remember how many police went past? Yeah. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they were the ones at the stadium still. So obviously there was a load more in the town and up around the train station as well. It was just a license to print a lot of overtime money.
As Richard's just said there, 90% rank and file on massive overtime money. That's why they do. In fact, that's probably why they do it, Tim. So the simple, sensible, low-cost solution: keep the fans in. We don't mind doing it. Preston fans don't mind doing it.
And I think the approach it almost seems to stoke things up in a way. Their approach to policing these matches tends to be stoking everything up. Whereas if it was a fairly non-confrontational police approach, I think everyone would be relatively happy. Yes, there's going to be idiots, but there's idiots everywhere. But the levels of policing that they seem to feel that they need just doesn't seem warranted, in my opinion.
And the massive inconvenience that they cause to both sets of home fans as they create these elaborate plans is massively disproportionate to the inconvenience that's been suffered by the fewer in the away end. So, if you knew, right, listen, Blackpool fans, you're at home. You've got 15 minutes to disperse. Well, most people will have gone, and there might be a few idiots hanging around, but then they're standing out then. They're easy for the police to identify and deal with. But then we know that when we go to Preston, we're going to have to stay back for exactly the same reason, for the convenience of Preston fans, just as we've had the convenience. But it's the opposite way around, and it creates this shitstorm of problems that we had last year at both games, and will no doubt have on Saturday. You can guarantee now, as somebody said, the blue zone, where they're identifying this blue zone, where all the Preston fans are going to be given a clear run to get out. That is, I presume that's what it is.
It's the designated scrapping zone.
That's what it's going to be. So every single little hooligan,
like a scene from 300, the movie.
Yeah. So that area is going to be surrounded by Blackpool fans trying to have a pot.
It is. I mean, it is, isn't it? It is.
It's just mental.
There we go. Cheezoid said it. Designated scrapping zone. Who do you think you are kidding?
That's a great shout. That takes me back to my childhood. Saturday evenings, 5:40 p.m.
For those of a certain vintage, Tim.
Yeah.
Right, ticket situation.
You've sent a load back, haven't you, today? There's been a load of returns, I've read.
Returns?
Blackpool fans have been and returned the tickets for Saturday's game, I'm seeing online.
No, that's this is Joe, because he had a big panic because he watches the. I don't know why people do this, but it seems quite a popular hobby amongst football fans. They watch the ticket sales on the app. And Joe had a big panic that suddenly some blocks had turned blue and there was availability again. But it turns out that it was just the club had shifted people around. So, when it's like people want to sit together, so they haven't actually returned tickets. But Joe had accidentally started some kind of quite long internet debate about why our fans were now deciding not to go, but there was nothing in it after all.
I'd also read today, I don't know if there's any truth in it, that Blackpool have blocked a beam back to Preston. I don't know whether you'd seen that.
They're not sure they've blocked iFollow, or they've asked to block iFollow.
Right.
So that obviously for those who are based abroad and those who want to pretend they're based abroad, there is the ability, obviously, to access the iFollow game on the Saturday, and apparently Blackpool want to block it. Again, I think it's part of this. Well, we've had a little bit of debate on AVFTT, and I've actually taken a bit of flack for saying that I actually think that we should have given more of these to Preston, because what we're actually doing is we haven't sold out those blocks in the East yet, and whether we will or whether we won't remains to be seen. But the impact of us doing that is that we don't get a decent allocation away, which in turn impacts on those who go on a regular basis. And we see it, we've discussed it before. We've got like the Celtic and Rangers thing where they actually only end up now giving each other 500. And I can see this M55 war of attrition as to who's going to give each other the least numbers is going to end up with us sort of replicating that, where we're giving the absolute minimum we can ever give each other, and making it as difficult as we can. And some fans, to be fair, on the AVFTT were reveling in it, but I just think it detracts from the game, it detracts from the atmosphere, it detracts from the experience, and ultimately detracts from what derby games are all about. And I just think it's got to stop, and I just think it's pathetic, to be honest. I think it's pathetic from both clubs, and they need to take a step back and just give their heads a big wobble for me.
Yeah, you would hope that after this season, perhaps it would be draw a line in the sand and let's start afresh. I hope that might have happened this season, but it seems that decisions were made that it was going to be the same or slightly less than last season. Although I think they came out and said it was on police advice or ground safety officer advice, which I don't know. Blackburn got 3,500.
Mitch, what's your take on this? My personal views are that we should give them the East, mainly because, well, two reasons. One, we'll get the same allocation at PNE. And secondly, I like big occasions. And like Tim, a couple of guys in the box were saying yesterday that Jimmy Husband said they found it intimidating having an entire stand given away to the away fans. But that said, how good is it in the north when you've got the fans right next to you? And also, it's Preston, so there's going to be all that added needle. You're never going to get the north next to the Preston fans unless they've got the entire stand. And you want these big games, you want these big occasions, and the same will happen at Deepdale. You know, we'll fill that away end. But that's what I think anyway.
We can't hear the way fans in the southeast, can we?
It can be. Hull fans were quite loud on the Tangerine TV replays. I watched the extended highlights, and they were quite loud. You couldn't hear a peep out of them.
Yeah, the audio's obviously in the east, isn't it? And we probably heard more where we were in that box opposite them than you wouldn't hear anything at all in the north because the acoustics just don't work. And you're right, John. When we've played Blackburn, and Blackburn have been in that north section, and Sunderland have been in there, and whoever else has been in there. It's created a far better atmosphere and far more banter going on between the two sides. Yes, you could probably leave the last block free just so there's a little bit of distance and stop stupid missile throwing. And they've got that net up anyway, haven't they? But to me, I get the old give the knobbers the least we can and all that business, but it just comes back to us. We get the same.
Of course it does.
We get the same, and it's just... I mean, I actually thought Preston away last year, I know the result aside, was the crappiest football experience I had going away all season. It was awful. And you
couldn't get a drink either, barely, because we only had half of it. There was like one place selling drinks. You couldn't get a drink. It was a nightmare getting a piss because of that as well. So, you're right, Tim. The whole experience was just terrible. Yeah,
you can't go to a pub anywhere near you never probably don't go to that anyway, but you can't go to any pubs near the ground. We get early kickoffs, which make it a little bit of a farce anyway and ruins the day. And it's just, on all levels. It's got to start at the top. It's got to start with, I know Peter Ridsdale and Sam and Sadler have had a right Barney over it. And I think they've got to, they've both got to take a step back. And I think Tom's right. It's not this season because it's too late now. But we've got to really think, assuming we're in this division next year.
I was about to say that problem might be solved naturally.
Assuming we are, then we really need to have a rethink and a bit of glasnost, I think.
It does also. I mean, this is much of a long-term thing, but it does also make you wonder about the plans to redevelop the East to be about the same size, because we don't sell out week on week. But we are, providing we are regularly at the level we're at now, we are going to regularly have games where we are, if we've got proper facilities and we don't have to split the fans down the middle and so on and so forth, we could sell more than our capacity probably for this game. And it does make me wonder if capping our capacity at about 16 or 17,000 is actually a wise long-term decision, because that's... The flip side of that is, Deepdale's too big. I mean, I don't know if Tom would agree or not, but Deepdale's probably too big. But,
I think we have one of the lowest capacities. We have one of the lowest percentage fills to what our ground can accommodate. It's been slightly better this year because we've got about 12,000 season ticket holders. So I think we're up about 15,000, 16,000 per game with away fans and walk-ons. But this game is for the fans, the owners, the players, the ground safety officer, the police. They come and go. This is a game for us. This is one that stands out on the at the start of the season when you look, because arguably we're probably going to struggle to go up. You probably won't go down, and we're going to meet each other again. So this is arguably the highlight of our season of these two games, and we want as many fans to be there as possible. And it's all got a bit silly the last 18 months, and hopefully the clubs can see that. You know, we're cutting our nose off to spite our face. You've brought 6,000 to Deepdale before. You've won, you've lost. It's money in our coffers that we need. You probably won't sell out on Saturday.
Could fix your roof, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. You can pay for our roof. Yeah,
there's one more irony in this. There's one more irony in this.
Build us up with Tangerine, I think the song goes, doesn't it?
There's one more irony in this from our point of view, is the whole justification of our pricing policy this year is about having as many away fans as we possibly can at a maximum possible price. And that's why we're not taking reciprocal pricing, and we got, you know, the home fans are getting £30 tickets. And then when it comes to, you know, the biggest away following we possibly are going to get, then we're only filling half the away stand with it, and there'll be at least 2 blocks empty because, you know, and it's not quite consistent, is it?
Delicious irony, if you will, Tim.
Exactly. That expression is made for the rather bizarre scenario that our Peter Ridsdale and our ownership have created, where both teams lose out financially, the fans lose the atmosphere, the fans lose the opportunity to go away, and we're basically just sticking the proverbial up at each other and saying, we'll treat you as badly as we can because we can, and because we can try and justify it, knowing that it's going to come back to us in exactly the same way. And it's just a never-ending circle of just silliness.
It's just ultimately, Tim, it's the fans that suffer of both teams. And Ridsdale and Sadler, stop being dicks. Sort it out for next season. If we're still
I raised it at the structured dialogue meeting, and the attitude was, if we can sell those seats to Blackpool fans, then we're going to sell them to Blackpool fans. And that's what I've had off AVFTT this evening, where people have said the same thing. And I sort of get it in a way, but
they're not really Blackpool fans, though. Those sort of people are.
Well, that's my argument. My argument is, if you haven't got a ticket to come and watch Blackpool 36 hours before the game, then you're not really a Blackpool fan. You might just be egged. You might be persuaded to go at the last minute. And the counter argument that I get back is, well, we're trying to build the fan base, so they're the type of people we should be aiming to bring to games. But the reality is, 3,000 Blackpool fans who want to go to Preston can't go to this year. Can't go to Preston because we're trying. Well, we're not really, but we're trying to encourage this small contingent of floating fan to deign to join us for the biggest game of the season, and they haven't yet made their mind up.
There's Tim. It's applaudable that they want initiatives to bring these extra people in, but this isn't the game to do it. If this is the cost of ruining this game, not ruining, but
it's ruining the game.
Yeah, ruining the game at home and away.
It's ruining the derby game. All this crap is ruining the derby. It's not just that. The early kickoffs, the stupid policing, the restricted away fans, you know, being treated like Mitch has spoken about, cattle. It's all taken away from the experience, which should be joyous. It's the biggest game both teams play. End of. Both teams accept it. Both sets of fans accept it. We take the piss out of each other. We don't like each other. You know, you'll be gutted if you lose. You're ecstatic if you win. And everything around it's been ruined. They're trying to ruin it. And we've got to stop them. We've got to tell them, stop.
Yeah, I echo everything you said, Tim.
Okay, let's wrap this up now and move on to match predictions. I think there's only one way these predictions are going to go. Let's start with you, Tom.
So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Preston. We may go 1-0 down, but I think we possibly get goals at you by the look of it. I'm disappointed that Ekpateta is coming back in because he seemed to boss the game at your place last season from memory. But I obviously see that there's a raft of other injuries and suspensions that you've got. So I think we're not in fantastic form. We're good away from home, but I think we may just have enough to sneak over that line. So 2-1 Preston.
I'll go next. I'm going to go with Cheeseoid, who's just said the biggest 0-0 we've ever seen incoming. It's set up for a 0-0. You don't score many. We don't. Well, oh God, I think we're going to...
We did manage to concede 3
I've got a bad feeling.
Attack on Wednesday, so, you know.
I've got a bad feeling about this. I have. 2-0 to them. I've got a really bad feeling about it.
That's always a good sign, though, because when you've got a good feeling about a game, you never win. You get bad, you know, so...
Well, at 10-5 last Saturday, when we'd just been humbled by Stoke 2-0 and you were still winning 3-2, I wasn't looking. I was trying to sell my tickets at that point.
It's funny, isn't it? One result from each team, it's completely flipped, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's try and be positive, Mitch. Who have we got coming back? We've got Marv back. We've got Jimmy back.
Yeah, no, I don't need talking positivity, John. I'm here.
Go on, then.
I'm preaching. So it's going to be he's going to pick a weird team, and it's going to be a really bad start. We're going to basically pick up from where we left off against Hull. It's going to be a really bad start. They'll score early on, and it'd be horribly grumbling. And as I say, he's picked a weird team. So he's only gone and left one Gary Medine out, who will come on about 64 minutes, and the game will pivot, and Gary will be Gary game changer. I don't know if Gary will score the goals, but it's a moot point, because when Gary's around, goals will follow, and we will score 2 in the last 20 minutes and win the game 2-1.
Love it. We had a Gary goal last season.
I saw him when he went off.
He's got a back
injury. He's always injured.
He's got 2 injuries. He's got 2 injuries, apparently.
So did you not think Medine's going to start Saturday then?
Well, I just have a feeling he'll throw a really weird lineup in.
I've got a hat-trick man. I've got him down as a hat-trick man for this game.
He did score a good goal, didn't he, in the last game?
Oh, he's got a beauty.
Tim Kenny's on fire as well. Doubled his tally from last season.
Kenny's definitely on fire. Leanne's. He heard about Leanne's scoring of his performance on Saturday and felt that he needed to hit back and just reinforce the point that he isn't 6 out of 10.
Anyway, what's your prediction?
Ever 6 out of 10. Eh?
What's your prediction?
My heart says 2-0. My head says we're not going to score, and the question is, do Preston? So it's either a 0-0 or a 1-0 to Preston is what I fear. Unfortunately.
Oh dear!
Everybody in the comments, get your questions in.
So it's going to be a 4-3, isn't it?
In your corporate lounge.
It's going to be 4-3, crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we've got Thompson coming back as well, and as Paul Ellis, nice surname, has just said there, he's been a bit of a liability. So
he's
which
better than
Thompson's
Garbutt, though, isn't he? I think if Hubby's potentially,
Hubby's got to start.
He's got to start left back, I think, which is a good. And then I think we've got a reasonably solid defence. Then, to be fair, I don't think we can play as bad as we did last night again. No. I think Appleton. I've listened to his post match before, and he just basically said Preston's probably the best game we could have because I don't need to G him up. I don't need to say anything. It speaks for itself. So let's hope it's as he predicts and that we rise to the occasion. And I think if we play like we did against Sheffield United, we'll beat them.
Or Watford. Or QPR.
Watford. Play like we did against Hull, then we're definitely going to lose. There's no doubt about it.
We're both inconsistent and up and down, aren't we? It's, neither of us is. Yeah, I think it is.
David Underwood said, tell Tom Archer has just come on for Villa.
Tell Tom,
sorry. Tell Tom, Archer has just come on for Villa. Right, Tom, we'll let you go off and watch that. We're just going to do our team and moan about Hull. So I'm sure you don't want to sit and watch that. Go and watch Archer for the last 10 minutes.
Oh, no. Broken-hearted. No, thanks very much for having me on, guys, and hope everyone's safe and has a good game on Saturday.
We'll see you in the scrapping area.
Designated fighting zone at 5 sharp. Oh no, it's 5 sharp. Be 3 sharp.
So I'll head off now for the See you later.
Right, cheers, Tom. Thanks for coming on, mate. It's a pleasure as always. Cheers, thanks. Changed the view there. Yeah, it was a good sport at the end. Big up. I think that means big up. I think you meant there, David. Right, let's pick our team then, if we must. Which view should we have? Let's have that one. Right, goalie. This is an actual a. This is a. Was I noticed a lot of people digging out Maxi on Twitter yesterday. I was like, what's that all about? Was he at fault for any of the goals? Mate, I don't know. First defender should have got it.
I thought the second one, which was a great strike, it was a bit of a swan dive. But that
He's
feels
not
very
get near
harsh.
that though, is he?
I don't know. No, I don't know. Watch him dive again. Watch him dive again. And it feels just a bit like he's missed time.
Maybe it was maybe it was going in anyway and it was just a token dive.
Yeah, possibly. But I don't know. It just felt like everything seemed to go through him. I think he's unlucky, but it just my gut tells me that it might be a good idea to play Grimmy.
Mitch, I'm with you there.
I can just feel Grimmy making about 6 brilliant saves, and I can feel Maxwell just letting goals in, and that's not an objective reason to. I just feel that.
What was that saying we used to have? So it was something to knock Sean down with, some sort of emotional rubbish. I can't remember now, but yeah, I'm with you there, Mitch. I feel this is a game for Grimmy. Tim, what's your?
I'd pick Grimmy. I don't think he should have got dropped in the first place, to be honest.
And he goes. Yeah. Well, what formation are we doing then?
It's got to be 4-3-3. We're physically incapable of playing anything else.
Should we go 4-4-2?
But we just look so shit when we play anything else. I mean, like we could. What's weird is there's exactly the same players could play 4-4-2 under Critchley, but we just look dire under Appleton with anything but 4-3-3.
Okay, so Marv's back. He's going straight in. Yeah, agreed.
Oh, definitely.
Judd.
I heard him call him Judd. He does call him Judd all the time, doesn't he?
Does anyone know why?
It's a shorten for Jordan. It's like a Yorkshire thing. In Kes, the brother who kills the bird at the end, he's called Judd. Comes and goes, Ma'am, Judd's killed me bird. And she goes, shut up, our Billy. And then it ends. It's culture for you.
Look at this from Isaac. I don't think Maxi's been bad, but he's conceded 7 in 4 games since he came in. It's not entirely his fault, though. He has made some absolute worldies. But this is a game for Grimmy. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, it is.
If only we had Gabriel fit for this game. He's going straight in.
It's got to be Connolly,
It's got to be Connolly, hasn't it? There's no other options. No other options.
And it's frustrating because I feel like this would be a really good game for Connolly in midfield as well. Just
a bit of bite in there.
Yeah, a bit of bite and churning the pitch up, and it'd be useful. But I think we're all united on Hobby at left back, aren't we?
He's absolutely going back in there.
Because Tomo would just get sent off after 20 minutes, and it would be disaster.
Or just pass the ball straight to Emil Rees 1-on-1. What happened with Husband's hair? Because when he came on last night, I was like, saying to Tim, who the hell's that? Who the hell's that?
It looks like he's gone into one of them kids' haircuts for a Fivers barber.
Genuinely, has he had his top knot cut off?
Yeah, his top knot's gone. Yeah, he's got like a little bob cut now. And when did you not see? Because you were in the box sort of at our end. You not see when he took the first throw in? He ruffled his hair nicely before he took his first throw in.
Did he really? Did he? Yeah. New do and new colour, according to David Coleman. Right, that's the back four then. Midfield, and I need to get these positions correct because I got a few people moaning at me for putting Medine incorrectly on the right hand side of attack, but. Right, who's going, although it says number 7, who's going right in the centre of the park, Tim?
I think Patino is on the basis he's still going to play that deep line role. I'd stick him in the middle.
I don't want him in that deep line role, though.
Yeah, no, but that's where he's going to be, isn't it? So,
but that's not, this is our team, not...
Yeah.
I've got a controversial opinion about Patino.
Ooh, go on.
The Emperor's New Clothes.
Right.
I don't think he's as good as people say he is.
I think
he doesn't harry, he doesn't chase down, and he gives up really easily. I know that's not his game, but you need that in your game if you're playing in centre mid. I don't think he's got.
Not another tin man.
Possibly, but he's only 18 though.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think you can. Well, he's 19
now.
now.
It was his birthday last week.
Right.
We saw him on the way out, didn't we, John? He's really young lad, isn't he? When you see him off the pitch, so to speak.
He's still young. He's not like, maybe he should have gone to GTF's builders team when he was 15, get the shit kicked out of you, and you're ready to go by 19, aren't you? Not playing academy football. Antonio, he does get pushed over really easily. Anyway, I digress.
No, you're not, John. You're not digressing. This is an important decision because I was wondering is you can't really drop Kenny because he's just scored 2 in 2, and he actually probably was one of the few players that merited more than 2 on Tuesday. So you can't drop Kenny, even though I tried to drop him last time and we didn't have it. I think Bridcut, you kind of have to play Bridcut because he makes us look more solid. I mean, it was far too late when he came on Tuesday, but he makes us look more solid. So who do you play with him? Do you play Patino or do you play somebody? Do you Chuck Carey in because he's perhaps more comfortable getting right forward? I don't know. And I think it's worth having that debate about whether do you play Patino. Are we mad dropping Patino for this game? Are we trying to be too clever? Are we turning rich? Are we tinkering?
Is he a luxury player? Possibly.
Well, if he's a luxury player, we've not had a great deal of luxury out of him, have we?
No.
It's like some soap that you bought because it said luxury and you got a bit of lather out of it every now and again, but it wasn't actually that smooth and creamy.
I think this is the kind of player where we need experience, and that's what Bridcut gives you. Been there and done it.
I think Bridcut's got to start.
Yeah, I think Bridcut's got to start, yeah. For me, Bridcut and Dougal have to start, and then...
another,
and it's who's the another. That's where the question is. I mean, ideally you want Fiorini, don't you? But he's not there. So it's between Wright, Carey, and Patino.
And Wright didn't cover himself in glory last night, did he?
He had no positional discipline last night. He sort of went looking for the ball, but was never where the ball was.
I think this is more of a Carey game. I think he's got more of an attacking threat. I think he's more of a goal threat.
He's got that feistiness about him, hasn't he? That little
Carey
feistiness. Yeah, exactly.
Patino doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Yet.
I'm going for Patino.
It's between you and me then, Mitch. Are we going for Carey? You get all sorts of moaners.
You see, we're going to get loads of stick on Twitter. We're going to get loads of stick on Twitter. But again, it's feeling. It's feeling. I can hear, I can feel Sean somewhere in his media towers going, "What are you doing?" With numbers flying out of his ears, thinking this is the most ridiculous thing ever. But, you know.
Let's look through the comments then. Patino, first name on the team sheet. Patino needs to sit behind the striker. That's right. Patino is in. You three are crazy. He hasn't covered himself in glory. Right.
Go on, play him. Play Patino.
I want Carey. Right.
I'll tell you what, right, no, I'll throw this at you, John. I'll throw this at you. We actually got Patino on set pieces. Ironically, we won, I think, 2 corners all night, but we got Patino on set pieces, and he did take, certainly the 1 corner I saw was very good. So we've got that in him. If we've got him on set pieces now, he's got that in him. And he could be a very different player. He could be a totally different player because with Bridcut and Dougal behind him, what we've just said is he doesn't track back and doesn't do those hard yards and he's not very... But then if he's got Bridcut and Dougal, that's not what we want him to be doing. We want him to be doing the thing that he's actually clearly very good at, is picking the ball up, turning away from people and threading those little passes. Patino and then Carey can be a change and he'll score one of the 2 that Big Gaz inspires.
Right, okay. David Kilshaw has made my decision. And it's for that.
Yeah. What were we thinking?
For the audio pod, David has just said Patino for the chant. Yeah, you've nailed it, David.
We were
Patino
like,
makes it in.
We suddenly turned into Pep Guardiola on Champions League final day, going, "Oh, we must do something clever. Can't just pick the team. We must do something clever."
Chill out, Josh. Chill the fuck out. Come on.
Ooh. See, Carey's, I think, 3 behind Gary Mead and Jimmy Husband in terms of players I will defend no matter what.
Alan Taylor, do you think Appleton is watching this growling at us with his PNE PJs on? Stroking his PNE tattoo. Right, forward line. Tim, kick us off.
Well, there's one certain, isn't there? And that's Jerry.
Where we're putting him in on the diagram.
I think he's going to go on the left-hand side of the front three. That assumes.
Hang on a minute. Let's. Right, our
well,
options
it
are.
depends whether Medine's on, doesn't it? Whether
We've got
Medine
Yates,
starts.
Medine, Hamilton, Corbeau, and Pervader is classed as a forward. Maybe this is a game for Pervader.
Instead of who?
Well, Jerry's a start. Jerry's in there, isn't he?
He's in there, but it's just whether he's where he is.
But that depends
Big
on
Gaz is
Medine.
in there as well. He's got to start.
Yeah, if Medine's fit, then
This is the final position that's open for me.
I'd go with Vader. I think he's probably more likely to do the sort of positional discipline stuff, that's Theo's problem. He's great on the ball, but he just makes no sense sometimes. He's just, you saw Gaz got visibly pissed off with him last night at just not doing the basic sort of shape stuff for the team. And I think Pervader is more reliable in that sense.
Tim?
I'm quite ambivalent about both. I just think neither of them. When Pervader first came in, he sort of really excited me, and then I looked at the way he's played when he came on last night, and I was thinking,
he just picks it up and runs into traffic every time, doesn't he? And he looked like he was like Wes-esque, but he's just not.
And then Corbeau is like the opposite of Jerry, isn't he? He just doesn't. I've seen Jerry get really annoyed with him because he doesn't press when they should be pressing and does his own thing and shoots when he should pass. And but I think if I had to pick one of the two, I'd pick Corbeau just from the point of view he's more likely to score.
I'm with Josh.
I think that's a fair point, Josh. I think he does better when he comes off the bench than when he starts.
Well, but by the last 20 minutes, you don't pressing's not. It's not what you need to be doing in the last 20 minutes because the game's broken down by them. So I'd go round with that. And he did get. I think Corbeau, as David said, he did get a really good assist last night. And in lots of ways, he was one of the better players last night. But equally, he fundamentally was not doing what the formation required, and therefore, at the same time, undermined what we were doing. So he was both good and a massive problem.
All right, okay. What about CJ? Now, let's don't laugh. Let's have a serious discussion about CJ because I think there's a bit of, I don't know. CJ, he can sometimes create things. We all laugh saying his one-trick pony can't trap a bag of cement. But on his day,
yeah, I remember his day when last time we played Preston. One of the most inept performances I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I'll shut up now. Right, I think Pervader to come on.
I'm looking forward to the Twitter reviews of they dropped Patino and then they tried to pick CJ.
Shall I do it just for the engagement?
Oh, Christ, for the engagement. Ugh.
I can actually see Appleton played him.
CJ.
I just can't. I cannot see how you can play a quick possession-based passing game with a player that has no first touch. That doesn't mean I think CJ is a fundamentally flawed footballer. I think in a team that required him to get his head down and run down the wing, and a team that punted it into the corner for him to run after, he'd be a very useful asset. But that's not really how we play. This fluid. I can't see how he starts for us. Mm. And he did have a good cross to Jerry. He did indeed. And maybe I'm being fundamentally biased about him, but it's a hell of a lot to throw the player who is probably the most doubted by the fan base into the biggest game of the season for his first start of the season.
And it's the
Appleton would
worst
be
player at
slaughtered.
pressing I think I've ever come across.
He'd be slaughtered,
Yeah.
wouldn't he, if we lost? Yeah. Right. So are we going for Pervader or Corbeanu then? I'm going to get my vote goes for Pervader.
I'm going for Pervader. I'm going for Pervader in the sense that Corbeanu's had a couple of chances. He's done okay. And you just say, look, we're going to give Yanni or whatever he's called, we're going to give him a go. You'll get half an hour off the bench. Pervader again gets his chance. Pervader's got something to prove. And I think he's got better discipline. What you need is the nearest thing you've got to Lavery to kind of mirror Yates on the other side. And I think Pervader is nearer that than Corbeanu is.
I think Corbeanu, Pervader does fade 2/3 in, and that's the time to take him off and bring Theo on.
Yeah.
You right with that, Tim?
Yep.
There we are. There we have it. Grimshaw, Husband, Thornley, Patet, Dougal, Bridcut, Patino, Yates, Medina. Pervader doesn't look... I think we're going to get a 1-1 now after that. I'm going to change my prediction from the 2-0 defeat to a 1-1 draw. No, 1-0. We're going to win 1-0 with Grimmy in. This is Grimmy's game.
That's a nice bit of positivity there.
Right, just before we go, Hull away. Hull at home last night. How bad was it?
Awful.
I generally don't. We didn't hit the target once in the second half. I don't think. I think I watched the highlights, if you can call them that. And I think we had one shot from Conley that just went slightly over the bar, and that was the only thing they showed from the second half for us.
The only thing that happened.
It was
dreadful,
and it was the quietest I've ever known the North. And you only have to look at the people, fighting each other to get out of the ground 10 minutes from the end. It just summed it up. It was turgid.
Even from a box, it was quite depressing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we can.
So a couple of ales just to normally but it was just boring, wasn't it? It was extremely boring to watch.
Antonio, you're right. It's not worth the discussion, is it?
The only thing I'm going to say, when we did the pre-season show, I said something along the lines of, if Medine is a regular starter this year, something's not going right with the plan. And last night was kind of why something hasn't gone right.
That's a bold statement for you to say as well.
Look, part of... Let's not turn this into a monologue. Medine is a footballer I enjoy watching because he's an old-style footballer that everyone gets on the back and calls a donkey, and I like the fact he's got more skill than meets the eye. That's basically why I like Gaz Medine. But as the fulcrum of a 4-3-3, he's not... what team plays that fluid, mobile 4-3-3 football with a big lad who's very slow up front? And then last night, where you had just the comedy of Medine leading the press and getting irate that all these little whippets around him weren't pressing, if it wasn't so depressing, it'd have been hilarious. And it is that thing where it felt like that the shortcomings in the recruitment were borne out by that last night. As I have gone on record on many occasions, there are fewer people on earth that I esteem more highly on a football pitch than Gary Medine, but we had no alternative, no way to change it. It comes down to the fact that we've got 11 or 12 decent players, but beyond that, we're really struggling. You shared something in the group, John, when you put the shot of the programme, and they had about 35 names and we had 25. And that's what it comes down to. We just do not have the depth to change it. And then, the subs just made it worse. It was just depressing all around.
Yeah, the screenshot was a screenshot of the back of the programme with the match day squads on. Tim was infinitely longer than ours. I think there was like 9 or 10 players more in their squad, and that was if ever a picture said 1,000 words, that was it, and that's ultimately the fault of the recruitment team. At Blackpool
we did better without one.
What?
I'm sure we did better without one.
Without one what?
Without a recruitment team.
All
But
right,
when you-
yeah. See, yeah.
We've created
Right,
this big recruitment team, but it doesn't seem to be
They were
analysing what we need and delivering it.
created this big recruiting time and then signed players that Appleton had at Lincoln. So we're putting into the big supercomputer and come up with some lads he knows from Lincoln.
Well, Appleton came. We had a manager who was part of the recruitment team, and it was Ben Mansford's mate, really, wasn't it? From Lincoln.
Yeah.
The manager came from that system as well. So yeah, you right, Tim. Right, we're on an hour and 25 minutes, but a great chat, gentlemen. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for your company. That's when you say thanks, John.
Cheers, John. Thanks. I enjoyed
Cheers,
your
John.
company very much too.
I was expecting more of your dulcet tones before we chipped in.
I'm thinking of something to say on the outro, Tim, actually. I'll say the ever so predictable thing that you hear on YouTube videos, which is please like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We want more subscribers, so please do that if you haven't done so already. And all that remains to be said is thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. Let's beat those fucking knobbers. Come on, the pool!
Paul!
Oh.
Tradition.